Harmful bacteria found in the fresh sample of organic fertilizer imported from China. Farmers demand fertilizer for the Maha season. Anura Kumar explains the reason behind black market rice prices.
සාධාරණ මිලකට වී විකුණ ගන්න බැලු ලැබුණෙත් නේ පාරිභෝගික ජනතාවට සාධාරණ මිලකට හාල් ගන්නත් බැරුව මේගොල්ල හැමදාම නියෝජනය කරන්නේ මාෆියාකාරයෝ.
4 Somalian fishermen stranded in deep seas, rescued by local fishermen.
Who will benefit from the cabinet decision to remove the maximum retail price on rice? Shanata Vibukti Perumuna during a media briefing today clarified matters.
හැබැයි දැන් අයිස් කන්දක් දිය වෙනවා වගේ ඔහුගේ සැබෑ ස්වභාවය.
Now the real nature of these people are gradually emerging like a massive iceberg. Not only Gazette notifications. President Gotabaya Rajapaksa went to shops and displayed theatrics in front of the media, saying that they have the database. Basil Rajapaksa says if the mill owners do not like to sell rice to the mandated price, the government will obtain the mills. They are displaying such massive theatrics before the people of this country. Then they announced the emergency law. They raided rice mills and transported rice on lorries. The president is overwhelmed by these media theatrics. Gotabaya Rajapaksa is a fiction in the history of media. The Minister of Agriculture keeps on making allegations in Parliament saying that there is a rice mafia in the country. Then he said rice will not be imported from overseas, but they imposed a control price. They said price of paddy is at 50 rupees, price of nadu is at 98 rupees, price of samba is at 108 rupees, kiri samba at 125 rupees. What did the farmers do? They sold their produce for cheap with tears in their eyes. They sold their harvest for as low as 40 rupees. The government threatened the farmers saying they will not give the fertilizer concession if the farmers do not sell their produce at the imposed price. Now the rice in the country is in the hands of the rice mill owners. The control price has been removed. The government and Mahindananda Alutgamage stole the opportunity of having a fair price for the harvest of the farmers. The government always represents the mafia in the business sector of this country.
මේ මූල්‍යමය මේවට අනුබල දෙන අමාත්‍යරුන් අතර ගොඩ ගැහුණු බව තමයි අපිට පේන්න තියෙන්නේ. නැත්තම් ඔබ හිතනවද මේ වගේ විකාරයක් කරයි කියලා? මේගොල්ලෝ හැමදාම නියෝජනය කරන්නේ මාෆියාකාරයෝ.
After the government withdrew the maximum price imposed on rice, large-scale mill owners announced the new retail prices of rice. The All Ceylon Small and Medium-Scale Rice Mill Owners Association convened a media briefing and said prices announced by the large-scale rice mill owners are unfair. They presented a new proposal with a set of new prices for rice.
4 Somalian fishermen who were stranded in the deep seas of Sri Lankan waters were rescued by local fishermen who set sail from Beruwala Fisheries Harbour.
The Binu 5 multi-day fishing vessel set sail on the 8th of last month, and another multi-day fishing vessel set sail from the Beruwala Fisheries Harbour on the 10th of last month. The local fishermen had spotted the 4 Somalian fishermen who were stranded in deep seas while they were fishing in the deep northern sea of the Sri Lankan coast. The local fishermen had taken steps to rescue the fishermen and take them on board the 2 trawlers. 2 of the rescued Somalian fishermen were brought to the Beruwala Fisheries Harbour last night on board the Binu 5 multi-day fishing vessel. The 2 Somalian nationals are said to be of 25 and 30 years of age. They were stranded near the northern islands. They were handed over to us by another vessel. They were with us for about 35 days. We shared our meals with them as well. They are perfectly healthy. They have been stranded in the sea for nearly 4 months. The rescued Somalian fishermen are currently in the custody of the Sri Lankan Coast Guard, and further action is to be taken following PCR tests.
The body of a fisherman who was reported missing yesterday has been discovered. He had gone out to sea from the Porutota Fisheries Harbour in Kochikade. Strong winds have capsized the boat that the 56-year-old fisherman was travelling on. Two other fishermen on board the capsized boat were saved by a group of fishermen in the area. Operations are underway to search for 2 missing fishermen who set out to sea from Negombo yesterday. The missing fishermen are residents of Kuda Paduwa and Vallavidya, aged 63 and 64 respectively. They set out to the sea with few other single-day fishing vessels last morning. Strong winds have capsized the boat in which the missing fishermen were on board.
A team of representatives of the European Union is currently in Sri Lanka. The delegation met with opposition leader Sajith Premadasa and a group of opposition parties yesterday. They also held discussions with Minister of Justice, President's Counsel Ali Sabri. The delegation is in the country to evaluate whether the GSP Plus concessions granted to Sri Lanka should be extended.
Under the GSP Plus concession, about 45% of the apparel exports of Sri Lanka was sent to the European Union. The exports were valued at $2.7 billion. $2.2 billion worth of apparels were exported to the EU last year. However, the European Parliament approved a proposal to consider revoking the GSP Plus concessions from Sri Lanka, citing deteriorating standards of human rights in the country. 5 representatives of the European Union are in Sri Lanka to assess if Sri Lanka should continue to receive the GSP Plus concessions. They will present a detailed report to the European Parliament next year.
Shifting your attention to some international news now, United States Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin and Joint Chief of Staff Chairman General Mark Milley, appearing before Congress yesterday, acknowledged a series of failures that led to the chaotic withdrawal of U.S. troops from Afghanistan.
The hearing comes weeks after a chaotic withdrawal at Kabul airport as foreign powers sought to get their citizens home and thousands of desperate Afghans begged for rescue. General Milley told the Senate Armed Services Committee, quote, "It is clear and obvious that the war in Afghanistan did not end on the terms we wanted with the Taliban, now in power in Kabul," end quote. General Milley said the US had been taken by surprise by the speed of the Afghan government's collapse. A suicide attack killed 182 people during the withdrawal operation. 13 US service personnel and at least 169 Afghans were killed by the airport gate on the 26th of August. General McKenzie, who was head of US Central Command, oversaw the withdrawal from Afghanistan, said under questioning from Republican senators that he recommended keeping a small force of 2,500 troops in Afghanistan. This appears to contradict President Joe Biden's assertion to journalists on the 19th of August that he did not recall anyone giving him such advice.
We'll wait for more local news, but before that, more international news. North Korea has claimed that it had successfully tested a new hypersonic missile called Hwasong-8 yesterday.
State media said the new missile was one of 5 most important new weapon systems laid out in its 5-year military development plan. They call the new missile a strategic weapon, which usually means it has nuclear capabilities. The launch is another indication of Pyongyang's growing weapons technology amid strict sanctions. Hypersonic missiles are much faster and more agile than normal ones, making them much harder for missile defense systems to intercept. The Korean Central News Agency said the test launch confirmed the navigational control and stability of the missile.
After 16 years of Angela Merkel as their chancellor, Germans scattered their votes across the political spectrum on Sunday in the election to replace her. A fractured return that heralds a messier political era in Germany and weaker German leadership in Europe. Newsfirst filed this report on the illustrious political career of German Chancellor Angela Merkel.
Merkel was born in Hamburg in then West Germany, moving to East Germany as an infant when her father, a Lutheran clergyman, received a pastorate. She obtained a doctorate in quantum chemistry in 1986 and worked as a research scientist until 1989. Merkel entered politics in the wake of the revolutions of 1989, briefly serving as deputy spokesperson for the first democratically elected government of East Germany. Following German reunification in 1990, Merkel was elected to the Bundestag for the state of Mecklenburg. As the protege of Chancellor Helmut Kohl, Merkel was appointed as Minister for Women and Youth in 1991, later becoming Minister for Environment, Nature Conservation and Nuclear Safety in 1994. After the CDU lost the 1998 federal election, Merkel was elected CDU General Secretary before becoming the party's first female leader and the first female leader of the opposition 2 years later in the aftermath of a donations scandal. Following the 2005 federal election, Merkel was appointed to succeed Gerhard Schröder as Chancellor of Germany, leading a grand coalition consisting of the CDU, its Bavarian sister party, the Christian Social Union, and the Social Democratic Party of Germany. Merkel was the first woman to be elected as Chancellor, and the first Chancellor since German reunification to have been raised in former East Germany. At the 2009 federal election, the CDU obtained the largest share of the vote, and Merkel was able to form a coalition government with the Free Democratic Party. At the 2013 federal election, Merkel's CDU won a landslide victory with 41.5% of the vote and formed a second grand coalition with the SPD after the FDP lost all of its representation in the Bundestag. At the 2017 federal election, Merkel led the CDU to become the largest party for the fourth time. Merkel formed a third grand coalition with the SPD and was sworn in for a joint record fourth term as Chancellor on the 14th of March 2018.
A look back at your local news now. The EU delegation in Sri Lanka held a number of discussions with political parties in Sri Lanka.
The delegation met with a group including parliamentarian R. Sambandhan in Colombo yesterday. The delegation wanted to inquire into the status of human rights in the country. They have already decided to revoke the GSP Plus concession, and the reason for that is that although the government promised in 2017 that the Prevention of Terrorism Act will be revoked, even after 4 years, this has not been done. That is the reason why this decision was reached. We said that this act must be revoked immediately. Actions under this act are extremely unfair. Now they have started using this act again. Also, the detainees under this act must be released. We informed the delegation about militarization. Despite the fact that these actions and decisions have been taken by the government, the EU will take action against all the people. It is only in the face of such pressure that the government will change their ways and allow the people in the country to live freely.
In some news related to the COVID-19 situation in the country, the Ministry of Public Services, provincial councils and local government says a report containing recommendations on recalling public servants for duty once the country opens will be handed over to Finance Minister Basil Rajapaksa today. Deputy Director General of Public Health Services, Dr. Hemantha Herath said the country will be open gradually, moving towards a new normal.
Our main objective is to adopt to the new normal and move forward. We cannot operate like we used to given the prevailing circumstances. We hope to open the country in a manner that leads to a new normal, taking into account the possibility of an increase in the rate of COVID-19 cases and also the socio-economic benefits that we can attain by opening the country. We must also consider the social and economic benefits that will be affected by keeping the country closed for a longer period, more than just implementing new proposals. We could expect a variation of the guidelines we have already experienced so far.
In one of your headline-making stories, the Department of Agriculture confirmed that samples of liquid and solid organic fertilizer containing nitrogen imported by 10 companies who import fertilizer are in line with the required standards.
Director General of Agriculture, Dr. Ajanta Silva, said 23 companies were provided with approval to submit samples of the organic fertilizer which they are planning to import. The fertilizer stock is planned to be imported from China, India, Thailand and Australia. Meanwhile, the sample test carried out for the second time on the organic fertilizer expected to be imported from China also showed that it contains a harmful bacteria. The relevant samples were retested by the National Plant Quarantine Service last Friday, with test results showing that the fertilizer contains harmful bacteria. The Department of Agriculture has decided to disapprove the importation of the fertilizer from China. The government decided to provide the tender to import organic fertilizer to a China-based company, Qingdao Seaweed Biotech firm. The company was preparing to import organic fertilizer from seaweed, and the first sample tested by the Plant Quarantine Service confirmed the presence of a harmful bacteria called Erwinia. The minister in charge of the subject, Mahindananda Alutgamage, recently stated that there are problems regarding the manner in which the sample arrived in the country. The sample was found to contain toxic bacteria during a test of organic fertilizer samples imported.
What will happen to farmers now? Farmers who couldn't cultivate during the Maha season are helpless. This is the plight of the farmers in Galenbindu. Although corn farmers in Ekgaloya and Polgasara in Damana Ampara have prepared their lands for cultivation, the severe lack of fertilizer in the country has left them helpless. Farmers point out that although they expect to cultivate corn on about 1,500 acres of land, they are not hopeful about getting a proper harvest. Newsfirst previously reported on how a farmer from Hasalaka named Gunawardana used a very sensitive mechanism to cultivate crops using modern technologies and was successful in nurturing a vegetable cultivation. The mechanism that he had set up provides water and fertilizer to the crops automatically. However, this is the fate that has befallen his cultivation. He pointed out that his cultivation was destroyed as a result of not having sufficient fertilizer.
Now, Minister of Energy Uday Gammanpilla said that handing over the monopoly of LNG supply to Sri Lanka to a foreign country will adversely impact the country's investments on drilling for gas. He made these statements at a media briefing held at the ministry today.
New Fortress Energy Samagamata in gas sapi.
The supply of gas will begin in 2023 and last for a period of 5 years. That means that they will provide gas from 2023 to 2028. We can begin the production of gas from 2025, but I am of the opinion that awarding a contract to an American company to supply gas to Sri Lankan power plants until 2028 will be an obstacle in bringing down investors to drill for natural gas in Sri Lanka. Our issue is not awarding 40% of the Yugadanavi power plant to an American company. We are concerned about the American company getting a monopoly over the supply of natural gas in Sri Lanka for a period of 5 years. That is an issue concerning the energy safety of the nation. Also, as the Minister of Energy and the Ministry of Energy, we not only have an issue with this decision, but there were also no representatives of our ministry on the committees that decided on this matter. As the ministry, we have given the Cabinet of Ministers 2 observations on the matter. I hope to submit another observation as well. I am a person who stands for what is right and always work according to my conscience. I have never gone into hiding. No matter how detrimental it might be politically, I have stood for it. There is a saying in India that a politician makes decisions for the next election, while a diplomat makes decisions for the next generation. Even though I may lose an election, I would like to be a diplomat rather than a politician.
දේශපාලකයා ඊළඟ මැතිවරණේ ඉලක්ක කරගෙන තීන්දුව ගන්න අතර රාජ්‍ය තාන්ත්‍රිකයා ඊළඟ පරම්පරාව ගැන සිතා තීන්දුව ගනී කියලා. මම කැමති ඡන්ද පෙරදුනත් දේශපාලකයෙක් වෙනවා වෙනුවට රාජ්‍ය තාන්ත්‍රිකයෙක් වෙන්න.
We see that you are speaking out against these decisions, but what you oppose is always what is being done in the end. You are speaking of these things that should be spoken of by the opposition while being a member of the government. But these decisions that you oppose continue to be implemented.
ලස්සන කතාවක් කියන්න. අපි හැසිරෙන්නේ ආණ්ඩුව ඇතුලේ අපි හැසිරෙන්නේ ගෙදර ඉන්න බල්ලා වගේ.
I will tell you a story. In the government, we are like the dog in the house. The dog barks when there is some danger. When the dog barks in a certain direction, instead of looking that way and identifying the danger, if the dog is chased away, the people in the house will suffer. So I believe that because we love the country and the government, when the government is about to make a mistake, we speak out against it. We are not speaking out in anger, but for the love that we have. If certain people do not understand that, they will be the people who will be destroyed.
නෙවෙයි ආදරේට. ඒක තේරුම් නොගත්තොත් කවුරු හරි ඒ අයගේ විනාශය තමයි එතන සිද්ධ වෙන්නේ.
Now, reports have come in about the adversities faced by a group of farmers in Nikavaratia.
The Kandegedera Katu Attawala River is located in the area falling under the purview of the Nikavaratia Divisional Secretariat. Although the river is almost empty now, according to the farmers in the area, this river used to fill up after a single downpour in the area. The farmers allege that about 2 seasons ago, an individual claiming to be in possession of a court order had lowered the spill of the river.
සම්පූර්ණ හිඳිලා ඔරුව තියෙන්නේ වාහනට උඩින්. ඒ වතුර හිටින්නේ නැහැ නේ ඔක්කොම මේ වාහනේ තමයි ගලාගෙන යන්නේ. වැවිල මැද්දෙන් ගලාගෙන ගිහිල්ලා ඒ වෙල්ලේ ආය ඔක්කොම හොදාගෙන යනවා. දැන් කුඹුරු කරන්න විදියක් නැහැ. මිනිස්සු අසරණ වෙලා ඉන්නේ ගමේ මිනිස්සු.
The area surrounding the Katu Attawala river is an area named as bird sanctuary. According to the residents of the area, there are about 150 varieties of birds in this area.
පාරාදීසයක් කියලා තමයි මේක ලොකුවට කුරුල්ලෝ හිටියා ඒ කාලේ හොඳට තිබුණා මේ කැපුවට පස්සේ කුරුල්ලෝ එන්නේ.
Farmers request for the authorities to intervene and renovate this river that nourishes about 150 acres of field in the area.
In your sports news, Sri Lanka Cricket will host the Pakistan A team during the months of October and November 2021 for 2 4-day games and 3 limited over matches. According to a media release by Sri Lanka Cricket, Pakistan A will arrive in Sri Lanka on the 21st of October 2021 and the tour will take place in a bio-bubble environment. The first of the 2 4-day games is set to commence on the 28th of October, while the second will be played between 4th and 7th of November. The 3-match list A series will be played on the 10th, 12th and 15th of November. From that, we bring to a close this edition of Lunchtime News on TV1. For the News First, the voice of the people, I'm Martin Sathinesan. You take care and stay safe.